All right, so Jordan wrote a article that sparked some controversy on Hacker News at least. I think it was only Hacker News. It wasn't really Twitter or Facebook that caused the uproar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Hacker News gets a lot of traffic from mostly developers in cities, and they live completely different lifestyles than us. So the article was about writing a note to your spouse every day as a means of communication. And when I added context about the article saying that like I was a father of 4 children and that like I'm the sole income and my wife stays home with the kids, a bunch of people but like how that like
Apparently, in today's day and age, no woman would choose to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's like only for farmers and for deeply religious people, religious slaves.
Or I guess toxic
Yeah,
masculinity type.
yeah, I forced you to have 4 kids and,
Forced me to stay home with
and then
them.
I force you to watch them, and I also hate my kids. So
And apparently you work all the time.
yeah, I work all the time. So like I forced you to have all these kids
Mm-hmm.
so that I can work all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
you just have to stay home with all these kids. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So um
And I think I read something too where if was I given the same opportunities as you?
yeah,
And to clarify, yes, I also went to college and could have found a job and decided not to because I wanted to stay home.
yeah, I mean it's a more valuable thing to raise children than it is to have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, like nobody's giving you any money, but
I mean, it's more important to provide for your family if you're a single parent.
well, yeah, right. Like I mean, like you need some sort of income, but
Yes.
ultimately raising multiple healthy and successful children is more important than uh, any type of job that you can have.
But for context, too, number one, we knew each other for a very long time before getting married. It's not like we were strangers, got married, and had kids right away.
Hmm.
We knew each other for a very long time, dated for a couple of years, knew we wanted kids. And then, I don't know, like, I feel like the context behind, though, too, like, why we made the decisions that we made is also important.
Yeah, yeah, and um, we made those decisions on purpose. I mean, you know, we didn't want to be having kids under our roof for 30 to 35 years, even 40 years, and some people spread them out so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but by having all of our kids young and so close, I mean, basically by the time I'm 50, all of my kids, it'll actually be like 51 or 52, all of our kids will be over 18 and probably moved out,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pretty, um, it would be pretty interesting getting to that point in my life because I feel like 50 is a pretty, like, it's older, but like you still have, as long as you maintain your health,
Mm-hmm.
like you still have good mobility, you still have good cognition, you still have a lot of life in you to do things and to build things, and
Mm-hmm.
you also have the wisdom that you've accumulated along the way, over the course of, you know, 30 years from the age 20 to 50 where you've been working and you know how things work,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I'll have an opportunity at that time to really, you know, do something cool
Yeah.
and impactful, but then also, step into, being a grandparent and helping out with that and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think our goal is to raise really independent children.
Yeah.
and kids that can take care of themselves. So I don't think we're gonna run into a scenario where like somebody's desperate for our
Yeah.
help that they're like they can't survive without us.
Mm-hmm.
Unless something really tragic happens or something like that. But outside of that happening, I can see us, really being able to do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I think we're probably going to end up wanting to be with, our kids and stuff like that. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting time in our lives.
But also to the point of choosing to stay home with the kids too, there's no reason for me to go to work. At least in the beginning, like we're financially not well off, but we're able to, like, I don't know. It was the more important thing to us was to actually stay home and raise our kids and not have to send them to daycare where someone else is watching them the majority of the day.
Yeah.
And really, if you crunched the numbers, I'm sure it would have worked out to be just about the same. Like, even if I had gone to
Right.
work and sent my kids to a daycare or something,
Right.
at the end of the day, I'm not taking home that much money.
Right.
And honestly, I could probably find more valuable skills to do at home. Like now I'm selling on Poshmark and stuff, and like anything I bring home would then be profit. And I'm
Right.
not paying someone to like do this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and be but like, even if you had just, a slightly above minimum wage job or something like that, like you're not
mm-hmm.
gonna be able to afford the daycare that you actually really want to
Yeah.
put your kids into.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so like, I mean, the best, that's why, by keeping your kids at home, I mean, you have the best
Mm-hmm.
care for them that they can get. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't even be able to afford that
Yeah.
level of care.
Yep.
And ultimately, that's why it's so valuable, is because you have such great care for your kids.
Mm-hmm. And that was what was, I mean, both of us grew up with moms that stayed home with us, and we really valued that
Yeah.
and thought that was a very valuable thing. And that was taught to us early on, I think, is just the importance of a mother in a
Yeah.
child's life. And
Yeah, I can't imagine life without it.
yeah, and I do think that role is somewhat diminished nowadays
Yeah.
and not looked at very highly, or that it's, I don't know, almost like you are forced to do it, or that no one would really choose to do that, or maybe you're uneducated and that's why you want to stay home with your kids, or I don't know. Like I feel like it's very um misconstrued almost, where it's like it's ludicrous to people that someone would want to choose to stay home with their kids. I think I hear comments all the time of, even when I tell people that I will homeschool my kids or that I am homeschooling my kids, "Oh, I could never do that." Like I could never stay home with my kids that much. Because I do think nowadays it is looked at of, I mean, I think a lot of kids are very dependent and not independent. And like to your point of, we are trying to raise independent kids so that they can, number one, go off and live by themselves, but they can be a help to us at home as well. It's not like, I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah, they're actually really genuinely good people to be around.
but intelligent.
Yeah.
I think we also valued being able to teach our kids at the pace that we wanted to. And if our kids are really interested in something, we can go for it. We can teach them, like you have a lot of background in math and science and all of that stuff. And um really being able to do, I mean, coding and stuff like that, where those opportunities might not actually be available to them if they were to go to a public school.
Yeah.
Um, and you can be flexible with the travel and with, I don't know, like
Yeah.
you're able to see the kids more. I'm able to see the kids
Yeah.
all the time. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly for us, we're in a pretty fortunate situation where, you know, I worked for years to be able to,
Mm-hmm.
work for myself, work from home, work the number of hours that I want to work in a day,
Mm-hmm.
and still make a good living. We live in a house that accommodates a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
We live on a property that allows our kids to get outside and enjoy nature.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a safe community. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that we worked hard to obtain. It took us years to get to this point.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of things that, a lot of other people, it might not be feasible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I
It would
think,
be a lot harder to do it in a small house with a lot of kids
yeah,
or somewhere where you don't have land so that they can go play outside.
yep, get energy out.
I mean, and even now, I feel like our situation is ideal too, where you are able to help out a lot
Mm.
when they're young and be really present in their lives and teach them. But my whole point to saying that was kind of to give background and context as to why it can be hard to communicate in person. But it was also our choice to do this, and this wasn't forced upon us, but that they were very intentional choices as to how we wanted to raise our kids, how we wanted our marriage to be, um, and trying to make it the best that it can be, but hit all of the ideals or the goals that we wanted as well. And so
Yeah.
that our marriage isn't suffering just because we wanted this amount of kids or like,
Right.
which I think it took us a while to figure that out though. Like it
Yeah.
definitely wasn't always like that. And I think there were a few years where it was very difficult and felt a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah. It took a lot of work and a lot of learning and a lot of growth individually for both of us to be able to get to the point
Mm-hmm.
where we have a happy, healthy home
Mm-hmm.
that functions well and, you know, really is an ideal place for, our kids to be and for them to be raised and things like that. And we have full confidence that, you know, it'll be good for them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, so I guess my point in saying that as well was that um when you wrote your article, it was actually more so about getting people to think about how they communicate and um because we have found personally that communication is the groundwork for a good marriage and
Mhm.
that when communication is lacking, then tensions rise, there's more conflict, there's more misunderstanding, um,
yeah,
a lot more things happen. And we have also found that for us personally, we really enjoy having deeper conversations when we can talk to each other
yeah,
and really, yeah, having more of those meaningful conversations. And so when it feels like we haven't communicated and that you have to catch me up on what you're doing, that's not the meaningful conversations we want to be having. And so it's actually easier for you to sit down and write a note informing me of what's going on and letting me know.
yeah,
And
yeah. So the article I wrote, the premise is basically that, the title of it is write a note to your spouse every day. And, I write every weekday, I write it, at least I strive to write a note for Hannah. It's not every day, but it's probably 3 to 4 days a week, depending on what, happens the night before or something like that. Like,
or even how much we had talked that
yeah, like
day
if we
too.
actually had a long discussion in the morning, then it's like, okay, I'm not gonna like write a note. I just talked to you for a long time, and
Yeah.
we worked things out. Um, but basically, the point of the note is effective communication, and for me, there's different types of people in the world, and I certainly am primarily a writer before I'm a speaker, and I don't really speak well unless I've written about something. So like right now, I can talk to you all day about this article that I wrote because I
Mm.
thought about it a lot and I wrote the words. And so I've processed it a lot in my mind. But prior to having written the article, I don't think I would have been able to articulate it as well. Um, but anyway, so me being primarily a writer, it's easier for me to sit down and write a note that covers a lot of different aspects of communication. So like, you know, uh, different emotions that we're feeling, questions that I'm thinking about, or questions I have for you, day-to-day tasks that I have to do that I have to remember, um, just expressing gratitude, expressing love. Um, and honestly, I think one of my favorite parts about the note is I'll remember that I have to do something, and then I'll realize that it's only going to take me like 5 minutes, and then I just do it. and then I put in the note, hey, I did this. Like the other day, I wrote a note like, I've been meaning to get the van detailed for a long time because we have 4 kids and there's just food everywhere all the time. And I'm like, this thing is a mess. I need to get it cleaned up. And I remembered in writing the note that I needed to do that. And so I was like, wait a minute, I can just like Google it right now and just see if there's anything I can book online. And so I did it. And then instead of in the note writing, I should probably schedule a detail sometime, I could say, I scheduled a detail for this date. And and it's gonna like,
Mm.
so I'm excited about that. But I like that because it actually happens like all the time. It'll be like with finances, it'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we got paid today. And rather than just saying, oh, we got paid today, it's like, oh, well, I put this much in savings. I put this much towards this. I put this much towards that. And then it's a more effective communication
Mm-hmm.
rather than just being like, oh, like we got paid, or, oh, I should do this, or, oh, I should do that. It actually forces me to do some of the things that, I have a responsibility over. It forces me to do them before communicating it with you. Because if I didn't do those things, then the communication wouldn't be very effective because it'd be basically pointless.
Yeah.
So I like that about the note. But anyways, yeah, I like the note, and it's probably not for everyone. But certainly for people, I think for people that struggle with communication, it might be a way to broach having less discussions about having conversations
Mm-hmm.
and more discussions that are actually impactful and actually, good, deep conversations. And, I think that's one of the things that have enabled us to, even think about having, a podcast or something like this, where it's like, we've basically talked about everything that we need to talk about
Mm-hmm.
in our marriage, for the day, for the marriage, for the near-term future. So now we can just sit down and talk about whatever we want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
or talk about what's on our minds, or talk about what we think is going to be helpful to people and stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was the article I wrote, and it was interesting because I get these like ideas, these writing ideas, because I'll be thinking about something for a long time, and then kind of when it clicks in my mind, usually it'll be like when I'm doing something like mowing the lawn or doing the dishes. I think I was doing the dishes when I thought of this one. But it's like my mind's wandering and it's thinking, and then all of a sudden it clicks. It's like, oh wait, I should write about this because I have it. Like I have the whole picture. And then it was like, I texted Hannah. I was like, I have an article to write. And then it was like 2 hours later, I had finished it.
I think it was less than 2 hours.
Well, it was because I started a little like a half hour or so after having said that I wanted to write the article. But anyways, yeah, it only took me like an hour to write. I don't even know how many words it was, probably like 1,000 words or something. And I published it on my website, and then I had immediately posted it to Hacker News, and I specifically made the title very direct and not really like controversial, but very direct. Like this is what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that type of stuff drives engagement because like, people, they read the title and they're like, oh no, like that's not right. Like I'm going to comment about this and get all angry. And
Just off the title.
yeah, they'll read the title and be like, no, that's not true. Um, and so I did that on purpose to drive up engagement, and that actually worked really well. And I ended up ranking as like one of the top 30 posts for the week on Hacker News. So it's still getting some traffic to it and stuff like that. I've got multiple people message me on Twitter, say they found it and they thought it was really cool, and that they read through some of my other blog posts, and they appreciate that I post about like, I post about like business and things like that, but then I also post about my faith and Christianity, and they think that's really cool to be able to merge the two and be able to relate different topics back to each other. So yeah, it was interesting. But I mean, I think for me, it just solidifies that like basically anytime I'm writing, good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not writing, then like really nothing good is happening, at least for like related to like business and, just making progress on the internet. Only when I sit down and write things is when good things happen. So that's why lately I've been writing in my notes like, hey, like I just need to be writing more. It doesn't really matter what I'm writing about. I just need to be writing more. I need to be writing more marketing for the business. I need to be writing more personally. I need to be writing more, for new businesses and things like that. So yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic.
There's two things I wanted to bring up, and one was, I gotta think of it now.
Well, you said there was two. What was the other one?
Well, the other one was, it was somewhat shocking to me to read the comments and, see how much of a problem people had with gratitude, though, and
Oh yeah, I saw
that
that.
they thought that I just thought that was an interesting thing to explore, though, where to me, I think being grateful and having gratitude towards someone can actually put you in a really good headspace
Right.
and really change your attitude towards someone. It's not just changing your spouse's attitude, but like it's actually your speaking into existence
Right.
what you're feeling about your spouse.
Yep.
Even let's say even if you were annoyed at me or something.
Yep.
Not that you are, but you're saying, "Oh, I'm really grateful you did this for me."
Yeah.
Or like, "Thank you for taking care of the kids so I can work."
Yeah.
Like that's stuff that a lot of times are taken for granted, and not to say I need that to be able to function. That's
Well, yeah, that was the first comment. I think the root comment was somebody saying like, imagine needing
yeah.
gratitude to like someone else's gratitude to be able to function,
Yeah.
which assumes a lot about you because like I never said anything about that. But
No.
the context around this is I try to begin and end my notes with some sort of gratitude. Usually the beginning is more gratitude for you personally, and then the end is more just like gratitude for like our life and stuff like that.
But I will say you're totally against flattery. It's not that
Yeah.
you're trying to flatter me.
No, yeah, it's
It's-
genuinely like, I'll specifically mention
It's
things.
not a sign of manipulation or anything
No, it'll be
either.
like I'll specifically mention like, hey, thank you for like cleaning the entire house yesterday. Like
Yeah.
that was great. Like the house looks good. Or
Mhm.
thanks for the time that we got to spend together last night. Like that was fun.
Mhm.
Or like thanks for watching the kids for an extra couple hours while I got some work done. Like that was helpful. It's not like I'm like buttering you up. Like, oh, you're the most beautiful woman on the planet. Like all this and all that because
I couldn't live without you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do for me.
right. Like it's not. And that's the difference. I mean, like,
I mean, and there might be a time and place for that as far as, I mean, like,
yeah.
but that's not the daily of like,
Is that something you want me to do? Is it,
no, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's completely out of the question for
Yeah.
a relationship
Well,
too.
it's different. I mean, yeah, but like for the note is more about communication. It's not
Yes.
about romance. And so
It's not a romantic note.
But I think-
not a poem.
I think the next comment right below that though, somebody was like, yeah, but like gratitude
Yes.
is very important. Like it's more about the person expressing gratitude than it is about like the person that's actually receiving
Yeah.
the gratitude. Like,
Yeah, no, it was just an interesting thing that I saw but I think there was also people that were saying it was like narcissistic and stuff like that, which was also just an interesting thing. Like you said, it was an assumption about also, I never asked you to be
Yeah.
grateful for me.
yeah, it's not like you.
I don't even expect
It's
it.
not like you break down and can't function if I don't like thank you.
I go on strike and stop cleaning the house
You're just like,
until he appreciates me.
I'm not watching the kids until I get a thank you. Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This might have. It's coming to me. The other point I wanted to make.
Hmm.
So yes, you were talking about like how you are a writer. In context to that context, well,
Your mic just. Okay, it's back. Your mic turned off. Sorry.
okay. So he had mentioned that he was a writer, and the context that I was going to also put around that is that when he was not writing, then sometimes there could be days where he would say nothing to me. And it wasn't that he didn't want to communicate. Jordan is someone that you have to be very direct with. And if I was not asking you questions, you would not offer up information to me.
Right.
And so this was a workaround because I didn't feel like I should have to ask you every single day, is there something bothering you?
Right.
What are you feeling right now? Like, to me, that's like information I offer up freely. Like if I'm feeling annoyed or I'm feeling whatever, then I'll be like, man, I'm really feeling, stressed about this or something like that. And that's not something Jordan would do. And that's why he says he's a writer. And
Yeah.
that was I don't know if I'd say a workaround, but at the same time, I guess it could be a workaround to having to think about communicating verbally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's what the second half of the article was. The subtitle was "Writing is Thinking,"
Mhm.
and when it comes down to it, when I'm writing the note, I'm taking a half hour of my day to just think about our marriage and our lives and like the things that I'm responsible for.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think when I don't sit down to write, I just don't think directly about those things. Like I'm just thinking about like, what's happening right now and
Mhm.
things like that. Like I'm not sitting down directly and thinking about like our marriage and thinking about like how we're parenting and things like that.
Mhm.
Even though like those conversations would inevitably come up, but it would be out of like,
Frustration because something's
frustration
not
because like
working.
something happened and it's like, oh, okay, we gotta like
Yeah.
actually sit down and talk about this. Whereas the note helps kind of smooth over those types of arguments because like I wrote in the article like it makes our arguments better because we don't have to like go through the process of like, oh well, you don't ever talk to me and like,
Mhm.
oh like, why haven't you talked about this in so long or whatever. It's more like there's a specific issue, we hash it out, and then there's a specific resolution, but we're both on the same page because like we know what the ultimate goal is and we're working in that direction and we both
Mhm.
know that we're reasonable about that. So the notes, it's been pretty helpful for that, I think.
Yeah, and that's not to say that we actually have it all figured out and
No.
that I mean, there's obviously still issues we have, but another thing I was going to say in regards to that is that I feel like even when we have date nights now and stuff, it is um less about like talking about kids, which I feel like sometimes that happens with parents is like you're only ever talking about your kids even when you're away from your kids.
Mhm.
But we're able to do that enough now through different forms of communication and stuff, which opens up different conversations that we can have and stuff like that. But I think one other thing I was going to say was that um by you communicating to me what you're working on and which I actually think is really important even if people don't work from home. I think it's a really valuable thing to be interested or even if you're not interested, willing to hear what your spouse is working on, so that you can, um, I don't know, just like know
You
what they're
can have
doing.
intelligent
Because that's,
conversations about
if you think about it though, like that's a huge part of your spouse's life.
right.
Like if you have a spouse that goes to a 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
and you're not a part of that, that's a huge chunk of life that you're not even a part of.
Yep.
And at least, I mean, this might just be different viewpoints on marriage and stuff, though, which maybe you don't think you need to be a part of that much of your spouse's life. But I guess for me, it's valuable and I don't want to speak for you, but it probably makes you feel a little bit better that I would be somewhat interested in what you have to
Yeah.
say.
Well, I mean, I know like we didn't do that like when I had a job,
Mm-hmm.
but I could see how that would have been like super useful because like, you could even get to know the people at work and things like that
Mm-hmm.
just through being like, oh, I'm working on this project with this person.
Yeah.
These are the things I have to get done. But it's even a layer of accountability
Mm-hmm.
because like if I start slacking off or something, then like even you can be like, wait a minute, like, weren't you supposed to finish this project last Friday? It's like, oh yeah, but,
Mm-hmm.
this, but if we're both on the same page about making progress and like actually moving, up the ladder and being successful, then like you're gonna hold me accountable and be like, oh, like you like
Mm-hmm.
you should deliver that early and you should, you know, do something better. And
Yeah.
I would agree with you. But I could also see it being really useful, just for having like intelligent conversations because like, I might come home really frustrated and be like, I could not figure this thing out. And
Mm-hmm.
she'd be like, oh, like, was it this project? And like, why don't you ask this person for help or something, or like, I don't know, you can just come up with different
Yeah.
ideas, different approaches, and things like that. I think that's interesting. I think that's something that could benefit a lot of people, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not I still had something I was thinking about, and I can't think of it, but
Hmm.
it might come to me. I don't know. I do think I had seen some comments too, about, well, is this a one-sided thing? Does she write to you too? Because I think it would be really weird if just he's writing to her, and that goes back to that he's a writer. I don't communicate as well through writing. I actually talk a lot
Right. Yeah.
and have to talk a lot to think.
Yeah. You talk more to think. Yeah.
Yep. And so he might write me a note, and instead of replying to him, I'll go out and talk to him.
Right.
And that's how I communicate.
Right.
But like I had a list of then questions I could answer and stuff like that, and things that I could inform him of.
Mhm.
And I would say to that point though, sometimes I have little kids around me where I cannot actually formulate a text to reply to his very long text and answering all of his questions. So it might also be snippets throughout the day or audio messages that I would send.
Yeah.
But there's also that dynamic of it's not that I'm working on less, but I do inform you a lot about what's going on with the kids and stuff like that, just
Oh,
day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So it's not like I'm writing you a note of like, this is what I'm working on today. All of that stuff. Obviously, I let you know like if I'm taking the kids somewhere or if I'm doing something like stuff like that. And I also let you know throughout the day like I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling this way.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
So it's to address that
Mhm.
point is
Mhm.
that you do have to somewhat play on your strengths too, and that's why for you that's why you said writing is the way to go. Um,
Well, I think that's interesting too, because I feel like I'm much better at listening now
mhm,
because I've been I've been able to express some emotion,
yeah,
and we've been able to work through, anything I'm dealing with.
mhm,
But then like I can now have the same grace for you because I feel taken care of.
yeah,
Not that I needed to be taken care of first, but it's just like I feel like I'm in a good headspace. I can sit down and listen to you. I can help you figure something out
mhm,
rather than like both of us being like totally zapped. We're tired.
yeah.
You're talking. I'm just like not even listening. Just like, yeah, whatever.
And then I know you're not
And then you
listening.
get mad at me and then all that stuff. So I feel like I listen better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of it. And yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah. This is what I was going to say was that what?
Was this the first one, the second one, or the third?
Well, just been, I don't know. Like I
Sorry.
said, I process things through talking.
Yeah.
So as you're talking, that's sparking more
I'm
ideas
processing
for
for
me.
you. Yeah.
And now I've probably lost it again.
I'm your sub processor.
I've probably lost it again.
Oh no. I gotta talk more.
Goodness gracious. Okay. It's coming to me. Basically about, I think with you communicating more to me, it's also allowed me or enabled me to be more patient with you.
Mhm.
I think you would attest to the fact that when we first got married, I had very little patience. Things were my way. Um, it was a lot different. And I think I've come to learn that like we are on the same page. We are on the same
We're
team.
on the same team.
Jordan is not against me.
Right.
And he's made that very clear through his notes because now I can see where he's coming from. He's able to explain himself more so that I can back him up, so that I can be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And when he can reveal his thought process to me, I don't have to assume that he's wrong or that he didn't think about this thing. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and that's what I think would sometimes come up is that instead of communicating to me your thought process behind a decision, you would just say something and I would have no clue where it was coming from and just argue with you because I'm like, well, did you think about this? Like, you don't even know what I'm feeling. Like, what are you talking about? Kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think it's allowed to have more grace. But and I want to reiterate the point that it doesn't have to be through notes. It's the communication.
Yeah, it's just
And so if you are communicating well with your spouse, then I do think it does almost inevitably make you guys feel like you are working together towards the same goal, that you are on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, I know like a common thing is, you feel like you're working really hard
Mhm.
with the kids, but like you're doing a lot of like more like physical labor.
Taking care of
You're taking care of the kids,
diapers.
but yeah, you're like changing diapers, you're washing dishes, you're cleaning the house, picking up after the kids. And, by the end of the day, you're very physically tired. And then for me, like I'm doing a lot of writing, I'm doing a lot of coding,
Mhm.
I'm helping customers, I'm thinking, strategizing, planning how I'm going to, move forward with the business. And at the end of the day, I'm very mentally tired, even though I sat at a desk for, 6 hours.
Mhm.
And even though both of us are exhausted, both of us worked hard, sometimes you would get the notion that like I didn't like work hard because like I just sat down.
Well, it was frustrating. I'd be like, why are you tired? Like,
Right.
I've been with the kids all day.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have time alone
Yeah.
and like be by yourself and work.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, it feels like I'm getting no work done.
Yeah. But
And it
then,
was that comparison thing of,
but then through the notes, I think what you're able to realize is that like, here's all the things I'm
you're
doing.
making progress.
Yeah, here's all the things I'm doing, and this is what we're working towards.
Yeah.
We're working towards this financial goal. We're working towards helping this many people. We're working towards,
Mhm.
like eventually being able to do this with our family, and that comes through the work that I do. And so it almost like ramps up the value of the work that I do, even though like obviously it brings home an income, but it's almost hard to associate sitting and typing on a keyboard with money coming to your bank account. Like it's a very
But I
huge
think
disconnect.
that whole thing though was you got me on board with you. So my work felt even more valuable. My work with the kids felt
Right.
more
'Cause
valuable
it's
as
like,
well
yeah, you're
because
enabling this to happen.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it was that thing of like, what I'm doing is also valuable.
Yeah.
It's not that I have to look down on what I'm doing
Mhm.
and compare because
Right.
it's not a comparison thing. We are on the same team. Like we're working towards the same goals.
Well, I think it made this thing too where like we both realized what our work is and like why not have fun with your
Yeah.
work? Like if I'm having fun doing the work that I like to do, like you
Mhm.
can have fun doing the work that you have to do
Yeah.
and that you like to do. And so like you're having a lot more fun with the kids. You're
Mhm.
really just trying to relax and just make the house run really smoothly. And I think that mindset shift of like, oh, this doesn't have to feel like I'm just drudging through every day. I can just have fun.
And it's that thing of I don't have to prove myself to you and then I'm working hard. Like,
Yeah.
which I think that just without that communication though, and I mean, I think maybe part of that did come from the gratitude thing too, of like
Yeah.
you noticing that I'm also working,
And like
even
I
if I'm
always
not
noticed, but I
bringing
never
in an
expressed
income.
it. Yeah. Like I always noticed, but I never expressed it
Yeah.
thoroughly.
Yep.
Whereas in the notes, I can be like, oh, I saw what you did.
Hmm.
Thought that was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And I think I might not always say like, oh, thanks for working on this, but I'm like, trying to hold you accountable and be interested and be like, "Oh, did you get this done yet? Like, what are you thinking about for this project?" Like,
Yep.
Trying to be more engaged in your business talk and
Yeah. Which I like
yeah,
because it is kind of isolating. I work for myself and I
yeah.
don't have any employees or anything. So
I try to encourage him to get out and see people.
I don't see very many people. Um, but yeah, I think, I think overall it's been a real big positive for our marriage. And I think it's something I didn't really understand. You always wanted me to write notes.
Mhm.
I always thought it was a romantic thing,
Yeah.
which I think it was more your idea of a romantic thing
I don't
early
know though.
on.
I don't know if subconsciously it wasn't. It was just this, I want you to talk to me. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I want to feel this is the thing. It was I want to feel connected to you.
right,
And I wasn't feeling connected through verbal communication
right,
or lack thereof.
right,
And so it was this desperation of like, can you just write me a note? Like,
right.
write me a note. It can be like a sentence long. I don't care.
Yeah,
But like then I knew you were thinking of me at least. Like you weren't off just doing your whole thing all day. not ever thinking of me.
Right. Yep. And yeah, like I always thought it was like I just needed to get out a sticky note and write down like I love you or something, which to me
Which
was
also never happened.
pointless. Like that's not useful at all. Like that doesn't help anything.
For some people, maybe, though. You can't say it's...
I really need a water. I'm gonna go get one.
I have one.
Oh, yeah, if you got one then.
He's a writer.
Yeah, I'm not used to talking this much. All right, that's better. But yeah, so like I always had this idea in my head that like, oh, she just wants me to like, be romantic and write it out. Speaking of romance, we'll go back to the Hacker News comments. The guy who was writing a poem to his girlfriend for every day for 2 years. He said, this writing notes thing does not work. Like I wrote a poem to my girlfriend for 2 years and she broke up with me. And I was just like, oh. Like, and the comments confirmed it too. Like everybody else was like, I'd be kind of freaked out if like somebody wrote me a poem every day for 2 years.
Well, number one, I did ask for these notes.
Yeah, but I mean like, yeah, but so like
But it also wasn't a poem.
For me, the written expression of like love and romance every single day is like completely unnecessary. Like one person was like, oh, I do this, but like we only write like an annual letter, like we like on our birthdays or whatever, like, and that's what we do too.
Yeah.
We'll write a letter to each other every year. And like I think that's a great place to express some, more romantic things, or like, really
or commemorating like very big milestones.
Yeah.
And
talking more about like love and stuff like that. But like the day-to-day note is like more about like communicating and like, but
it also depends on the season of life. Like if you don't have kids,
well, yeah, that's what I was just
that
gonna
might
say.
be different.
I was just gonna say, like, if you don't have kids and stuff, like, you just sit down and have a conversation. There's no point to like writing a note.
But I guess what I mean is like the romance when you don't have kids might also look different. We didn't really have a huge period of that before having kids.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If that was, yeah. Like you said, I don't find it super useful.
I mean,
for that
I don't
long.
like, yeah, like the first 2 poems would be like, oh, this is cute.
Yeah.
But like, 300.
And I guess especially if you're not married and it's only a girlfriend.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So like, that was the hurdle I had to get over. Was like, oh, this note isn't about romance; it's about communication. And I think once I got over that hurdle, so I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the article. I was actually starting to do it, but then I heard the podcast with Rob Dyrdek, and he's a entrepreneur, and his reasoning. So he actually writes a note to his wife every day, but his reasoning was like he was doing a lot of business stuff, and like he'd be like doing stuff, and then he would like close a deal or something, and like his wife didn't even like know about it, and she'd be like, "Why? Like I'm not even on the same page with you. Like I don't even know what's going on." So now she's like the first to know about like everything, and every single day he writes her a note, and I thought that was really cool because it's like, oh, it's about communicating.
I thought he did talk about the accountability and stuff too, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's that too. She knows exactly what's going on every single day, and he wants to be held accountable. Like, yeah,
because he was talking a lot about tracking his time.
Yeah,
too,
like when this time hits, like this is what we're doing. Like if family time starts at this time, that's when we're doing it. Like, and you gotta you can hold me accountable to that. And if I'm not doing that, then like I'm in trouble. So yeah, and I thought that was really cool. I'm certainly not as strict with my time. Like I'm not like every hour like this is what I'm doing, but certainly, stepping up discipline to be like, hey, like this is what I'm supposed to get done today. I need to sit down and actually get this done today. And so yeah, I think it's been really useful. So yeah, it's something that really helped our marriage, and I think it can help a lot of other people. And I got a lot of positive notes too. Like we made it seem like all the comments were mean. There was a lot of people that said it was really cool, and I think a lot of people really liked it. So
yeah, and I think that was the goal. Was, I mean, honestly, reading through the comments, I mean, I know people talk about like hate comments and stuff, and like it's actually not really that big of a deal. Like the goal was actually just to like help whoever could use the help, and if it could actually benefit someone, then great, and if not, then leave it.
Yeah,
like
if you're
it doesn't
already
matter.
a great communicator with your wife, then you don't need tips on how to communicate with your wife. But if you're not, and you don't know how to communicate, then
or didn't see the point in it, or
yeah,
maybe you are having the same conflicts over and over again,
yeah,
this might help.
yeah,
Or
and
if you have
especially
young kids,
yeah,
this could
contextually,
help.
if you're a young married couple that has a bunch of kids, something like this can be very helpful because there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
It's a very busy season of life, and if you don't have a couple tricks up your sleeve, it can go south pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
Um, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I was going to.
you got more?
No, I was just gonna ask one question that won't hurt my feelings, but do you ever look forward to writing a note now?
Yeah, I mean, it helps me clear my head. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I like it. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a chore. Like it actually feels like it's helpful for me
Yeah.
personally.
'Cause, like, and I only ask that because, like, genuinely look forward to, like, talking to you. Like,
Yeah,
I like to talk to you and communicate to you, so it's
nice.
not like, "Oh, man, I have to go
Yeah,
talk to
no,
Jordan now."
it feels good to like it feels good to write it because like I can it helps me think clearly, but then it also feels good to like check off the box and like be disciplined about it and like actually sit
Yeah.
down and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's cool.
Mhm.
All right, well, to wrap this one up.
I don't think I have much more to say.
Yeah, cool. Sign off then. I don't know how long it was, like an hour or something, a little more than an hour.
I don't think it was quite an hour.
Hmm.
No, it wasn't an hour. It's only 9:53.
Cool. All right. Peace.